It's a bit of a clickbaity title, but strap yourselves in, because over the next 10-15 minutes, whilst I review this MegaSize Zaku, I'm going to explain to you why I think Megasize Gundam are one of the most fun grades of Gundam, and one that every Gunpla builder should really buy at least one of. So let's start with the unboxing, or in this case the unbagging. And the reason for that was I got it loose, no box. It was 40 quid from AliExpress. It does come on 21 sprues, and it took me about 6 hours, and for that I'm also going to include any of the custom work I've done, like some touching up with Gundam markers. Here you can see my dish drainer sprue holders. It's a really good little tip, and I try to get it in all my videos. Here you can see on the sprue itself, it mentions this is PS, polystyrene. You can panel line polystyrene. I do it on the sprue and then clean up after there. Just make sure you don't get anything wrong with it. And this is ABS. I'm not pronouncing the proper name. Don't panel line ABS. It will just rot. It's too weak. You can do it if you prep it, but it's not worth it in my opinion. So just unbagging everything. There's quite a lot of sprues in this. Like I said, 21 sprues, which for a high grade essentially, which is what Megasize are, that is a lot of sprues. Here you can see some water slides, and consider it was unbagged. I only lost 2 parts. That Homoxium 4, I lost way more than that, and a couple of breakages actually in that one. Megasize has also come on this weird little clippery thing, which just ignore. Just use nippers. You shouldn't be pulling them off the sprue with that. So, first part of the build really is the legs. You clip these parts together for Megasizes. It tells you to do that in the instructions. It's just really awkward, and to be brutally honest, even though I did it here for the sake of dramatic effect and for the video, generally I just cut them off, and you'll see me actually do that later on in the build. There's a lot of polycaps in this. There's 2 big sprues just of them, and 2 little mini sprues for you to build the coil things. They go on the legs and on the torso and the head. Next part of the build is the waist. Really simple, barely anything to it. As you can see, it's quite straightforward, takes barely any time at all. So moving on to the torso, and the torso does have a bit more to it. I did take a bit more time with a bit of painting. You'll notice there's some touching up there with some Gundam markers. I think it's come out quite nice, and when you see the finished version after I've done a bit more painting, I do quite a bit more. Hopefully you'll notice that. So moving on to the arms, and this is a high grade. Like I said that earlier on in the video, and I'll just repeat it. Megasizes have got the same complexity as high grades, except instead of at 1/144th scale, it's at 1/48. So it's just the same parts massively blown up. They're a lot bigger. You will see it from comparisons with the high grade Zaku, which I use in all my videos, that the size difference is dramatic, like 5 times the size. Just at the head, this has got a really nice little mechanism, so you can pivot the mono-eye, which you have on the Zaku. I really like it, it's quite cool, although I'm not really going to take it off. And I did paint the brain pan, as you could tell. So the final part of the build is the weapons. As you can see, this build's super quick. If I just snap built it without doing any touching up or panel lining and the decals, I think I probably could have built this in about 2 hours. But I did do, as you can see, quite a lot of extra work on it. Some nice moving parts on the bazooka, which by the way is just massive. Like, it's hard to stress how big that is. Compared to just normal Gundam, there's a high grade Zaku, and look at the difference. And not only is it ridiculously big, even when you hold it on the Megasize Zaku itself, comparing it to other Gundam, that's an MGEX Strike Freedom, and that's a perfect grade Exia, and it's just way bigger than both of those. It's fantastic. I love the huge oversized weapons on these. Time for the final assembly. I'm actually going to focus on some of these parts just to show off, again, some of that painting I've done, the water slides, and I've also given it a coat of flat matte varnish. I'm really proud how it's come out. The panel lining, again, those little touch-ups here and there with metallic paints or some other paints including Gundam markers. I did use my Games Workshop paints, Citadel paints on bits and pieces. I really like the metallics that Games Workshop have for Warhammer, etc. And after a top coat, they're not coming off really. This is huge, this model. As you can see, just the legs. It's getting quite hard to get into frame when I'm shooting these videos. If I do a high grade or a master grade, and I put the legs on the waist, that will fit in frame. But with the MegaSize, it just doesn't. Again, a bit of a close up on some of the extra painting work and touch-ups. And the flat matte coats come out really, really nice. I was using Mr. Hobby flat matte coat. And now I've bought a massive can of AK Interactives, I think it is. I did make a mistake. You might notice the lens that covers the eye. I forgot to cover it, so it's gone a bit frosted. I did try to clear it off a bit with methylated spirits, but it still looks kind of frosted. But I'm going to get away with it. It's a MegaSize. It's going to go on a shelf with all the other MegaSize Zakus and Unicorn and the Gramps and the Age 2 that I have. I'm only missing the Age 1 MegaSize out of the 6 basic MegaSize Zakus. MegaSize Gundam, sorry. That's the only one left, besides a load of recolor variants of all of these, and I'm not paying silly money for more giant Gundam when I've got no space to store the ones I have. Again, just showing off some of the little effects, and I think that flat matte coat's come out lovely. It's definitely protecting the decals as well, although I also used a decal setter to try and make them stay on. This is an old kit, and I think the decals are pretty old, if I'm honest, and you can tell by the paper they look like they hadn't been used in a long time, or it's been printed a long time ago, which isn't surprising for AliExpress. Here I'm putting the bazooka on. I want to display it with the bazooka, but I just don't have the space to display it like that. Like when you actually put it on there, it becomes quite top heavy. As you can imagine, that point of balance, especially if you aim it forwards, is quite far towards the front. It looks incredible, like that's brilliant, but if wherever I put it, it's a risk of falling over. And as these take up so much space, if you put them up high, that's a long distance for a model even this sturdy to drop. It does look great, but you'll see from the end how I actually display the pose that I put it in and the weapons I choose for it. The rifle's pretty cool. It's come out quite nice. Here you can see how the hands work. Again, exactly similar to a lot of high grade hands. You just got a little notch that you put the one side of the hand in, and then you put the other side over the top just to hold it in place. I always like the rifle on my Zakus. I tend to use the rifle and the axe, the beam tomahawk. Speaking of which, you'll see that in a second. That's had a lot of custom work. I didn't just leave that as pure grey plastic because it didn't look good, and I think I went through about 4 or 5 variations of metallics before I finally settled on layers of yellow contrast and orange contrast paint over the top of it to get that sort of yellow effect that it has. I think it's come out alright. It probably would have been better if I used an airbrush instead of traditional Games Workshop brushes, but I think it looks nice, and the metallics and some of the washes I put on there seem to have held up quite well. Again, that top coat layer will just seal all that in. For a lot of the bits you might notice, I do a lot of editing, so you might not notice how much I have to take off screen. The parts on this can be quite tight fits, so you can't really do it in front of the camera. You kind of have to whip it off screen, force it in there, and then put it on and present it like, yeah, I managed to do this really easy, when in fact it was a little bit challenging. As you can see, beam tomahawk rifle, you can put the bazooka on the back, which I do, but this is the pose I go for. Time for the final score. And I love MegaSize Gundam. I love the Zaku, so this should really just be an easy home run. And it is by and large. It's the same as the Char Zaku, just in green. For pros, it is a really easy build. If you're new to Gunpla and you want to find something that's fun to build and easy to do, and you're willing to spend a little bit of extra money, for the same price as a master grade, you can get a MegaSize and it'll have so much shelf presence. And that's because it's massive. They are huge. They are a foot tall, more so, 18 inches. And I got this for 40 quid, which is about $50. And that's off AliExpress, fair. But you can get from Gunpla UK, Kick Attack, etc., the Gramps, and sometimes a Unicorn for between 80 and 100. There are some cons. That plastic I think it was from an original print, because it marked really easy. It was a really old looking kit, even smelled old. And because it's MegaSize, there is a lack of detail and it needs additional work. Luckily that's not with stickers, but it really stands out, just the lack of colour separation, because it's only a couple of colours and it's massive. As final score, I'm going to give it a recommended. I really do recommend MegaSize Gunpla to everybody, and I'm going to change my score going forwards to here, must buy, recommended, if you're a fan, if it's on sale, or avoid. I think that's a better scale than out of 10, which can just seem a little bit arbitrary. If I really like something, it's an 8. If it's brilliant, it's a 9. I think this is a better way of doing things. I hope you enjoyed the video and you look forward to the next one. If you like it, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching.